Former Bikini Olympia champion Lauralie didn't even place in the top 5 at this year's Olympia. And we're going to do a comparison here from her Olympia win 2024 to this year's Physique 2025 and highlight why that may have happened and ultimately give all you fans out there a lot of clearance into how Lauralie did not retain her Olympia championship title. Let's get down to it. So here we have on the screen Lauralie from 2024 right here, her Miss Bikini Olympia win, and then we have her over here 2025. The crazy thing is, you know, it is a very big difference. A lot of you watching, if you've been watching the channel for a while, you've been paying attention to the criteria, you've been learning all the things I teach you here, I'm sure you instantly can see there is a big difference here in this front pose with what's going on with her physique. Let's break it down step by step though, because I know a lot of you fans out there were totally blindsided and wonder. I got like hundreds and hundreds of messages on Olympia Day of people being like, how did this happen, Coach Wright? Please tell me. So if we look at Lauralie 2024 when she won Olympia, right? First thing you can note is that her shoulders have a lot of good fullness here. They have that roundness, that shape to that front delt, that lateral deltoid. This is what creates, as I always say, the upside down triangle, this first piece of that hourglass shape, right? Over here, 2025, instantly, that's the first thing I noticed. Not as much fullness coming from those shoulders here, right? She still has all that same shape, but the shoulders, they didn't fill out. They look flattened. They look like they're more depleted. We're not getting as much volume from that front delt, that lateral delt here, right? So instantly what that does is that creates a more narrow hourglass look. It doesn't create as much of that upper base piece of our hourglass shape that creates a dramatic V-tapered aesthetic for the judges. So instantly less fullness, right? What we do notice there. Now, biceps and triceps, something I do want to note here. When we look at this, she generally over here, 2024, was not overpowering, right? Like her bicep and tricep wasn't taking over what the shoulder was doing. And that's because the shoulder was more filled out, more developed, more in, you know, that aesthetic. Over here, actually, though, since her shoulders are looking a bit more depleted in 2025, it actually makes her biceps and triceps appear just a tad bigger, right? And I know you can see that looking side to side here. And really, that comes a lot from this overall look here, just not being as filled out. So instantly, when we start seeing that, we're already getting a little bit more of an up and down, you know, hourglass shape versus a more dramatic hourglass look now. So interestingly enough, the filling out was really key for her. Again, not sure if she missed the peak or something like that, or was trying a different type of a look, but she brought a much more depleted look here so far in the upper body, and that makes a big difference. Now, midsection, let's take a look. 2024 midsection, very tight, very tiny. You know, she always has that dramatic V-tapered look. We see that pretty much every time Lauralie's on stage. Here, it is tighter than it is over here in 2025, right? And we can see a little bit more of an oblique cut 2024. We see just overall more flatness in the abdominals. And we do, in fact, I think, see even narrower in measurement, right? So when we look over here at 2025, not as much pop coming from that oblique. It honestly also looks like her abdominals maybe holding a little bit extra water, something here of that nature, a little bit, you know, soft there. And overall, her midsection, I do think, does appear just a tad bit measurement-wise thicker, okay? So again, what that means, 2025, what we've seen so far, less fullness in the shoulders, maybe a little bit, you know, softer and thicker in the waist. That's not creating as dramatic of a V-tapered look as it was in 2024. We can really see that. I know you're seeing it, right? Comment your thoughts so far down below, right? If you were one of those ones that were flabbergasted by her placing, couldn't believe it. Well, if you're starting to see it now, drop it in the comments, okay? Lower body wise, interestingly enough, you know, some different things going on here. So if we look at 2024, we can see overall glute shape, glute fullness. She had very filled out glutes at that point, and it matched pretty well with what her quads and her hamstrings were doing. And that, you know, again, is key because that creates that lower piece of the hourglass shape that really brings it all through, showcases exactly what judges want to see in this division. Over here, we have a little bit of a different muscle composition going on, right? So she does still have a very balanced lower body. Honestly, I think her lower body balance probably did improve here some, because, you know, the quad looks a little bit heavier over here than it does here. And her muscle groups in general look a little bit more balanced between the glutes, the quads, and the hamstrings. In general, I would say that's true. But we do have a difference of conditioning for sure. Now, it's a lot softer coming through over here, and it just seems to not have that same level of pop. So a bit more depleted, a bit of a softer look, right? We're getting barely a little bit of a cut here. Nothing really else, nothing there, nothing, no separation here. Over in this year, definitely a bit tighter, right? 2024, her win, where you can see a little bit more of that shape and cut, a little bit more of that distinguishing pieces of the upper glute versus, you know, the rest. And we do see here some lines separating quads and the hams, and even just a little bit of visibility. Not that we need it, but you can see it over here. Again, pretty big indicator that her lower body came in much softer, showcasing a lot more water, and that, you know, maybe a little bit more of why she has that balanced look. But in general, it's not really showing that classic kind of Lauralie pop to her physique that filled out that muscle, everything that we would see, right? So the other note I want to make, her upper glute does appear to be flattened out here, a bit more depleted than it does for sure over here. We get a little bit more of a pronounced muscle and shape. This is something judges are really looking for on all bikini competitors, but especially, you better believe they're checking, you know, top at Olympia for this, and she does appear to be flattened there. So overall, her physique so far in this front shot, and we'll flip to the back here momentarily, has come in, you know, a bit under conditioned, right? A little bit softer, holding some water, things of that nature. And also her muscles just look depleted in general. It is, you know, a big difference in her look between this. And that's how she ends up falling dramatically in placings. Typically, we don't see that with Olympia winners. We don't see that. I mean, it might be they fall the second, or, you know, sometimes it's crazy if they fall lower, like third, fourth. But she was literally out of the top 5 entirely. So that's a pretty big drop, but, you know, looking at it, I think it's pretty apparent why. So let's take a look here now at the back. So again, remember 2024 over here, 2025 this year right here. It is blatantly, you know, big differences we're seeing here. Very big. Let's highlight them. So again, the shoulders, they're very much more filled out here. We see that rear delt, it's popping through. You should be able to see some shoulder shape from the back in bikini. That's what creates that V-tapered look. Biceps and triceps on her that year did not overpower here again, because, you know, she had a little bit more of that shoulder fullness. If we look over here, 2025, we're getting a lot of the same shape out of her delts, but nowhere near the fullness, nowhere near the actual density, the roundness, the shape coming out of them, right? So they're flat, they're depleted. And even looking at her arms, you do see that too. Not as much even coming fullness in the triceps, anything like that. So her physique just really lacked that pop and that oomph this year. That fullness, you know, to me, it looks like a lot of potentially a missed peak or something like that. I'm not sure. Something was definitely off with what was going on with her physique on this day. And we look lower body wise, again, it's almost like looking at two different competitors here from the back. This is obviously Lauralie's best this year over here, 2024, where she won. And we see upper glute fullness. We see good overall density, the tie-in coming through nice and solid, and a good balance between, you know, her quads and her hamstrings, right? We have seen on her physique at times where her glutes were very overpowering. She reshaped it. She brought it that year, dialed it in. Over here, you know, again, we just don't see that same Lauralie shape this year, this Olympia. We don't see it. A little bit more flat in that upper glute, like I noted in that front pose. We do see some glute development, but we're barely getting a very blurry, very soft tie-in coming from her physique here. So again, indicator that her conditioning was different. It was softer. Also, her physique was not pulling through that muscle. It was not filled out correctly. It was not really popping, right? Or it just didn't have the same density in general. Still good balance between everything. Honestly, I think her look looks a bit more balanced here in general, but it again is missing the mark here as far as the pop, the fullness of the muscle, and as far as the overall condition. So, you know, when I look at these shots, I see very clearly how those placings landed. And and a lot of people were like, what the heck happened? How could this happen? If you watch this full video, I don't know how you see any different, because, you know, it's really not showcasing the same. I am going to be comparing Maureen to Maureen. I'm going to be doing some other stuff here on the channel here. And, you know, maybe I'll do a specific video of Lauralie and Maureen side by side just to give you a better idea of what's actually going on. At this point, let me know if you want that in the comments. And of course, I'm always offering for right now, we're getting rid of this here soon, my free 7-day coaching trial. If you want to train with me free for 7 days, I can show you exactly what to be doing for whatever competition goal you have. You could never have compete before. You could be trying to get on stage for the very first time. And you could be a pro. You could already be, you know, well on the way to a pro card. I can help you out. Come over here, train with me free for 7 days. I'll show you how to train, give you some splits, design your workouts, nutrition, posing, tweaks, feedback, whatever it is you need. Free for 7 days. Come over here and train with me. All right. Don't miss out on this opportunity while we still have it. But yeah, plenty more Olympia content coming. Follow along. Thank you for watching. Coach Ryan is out.